I was standing outside a glass-walled hotel in downtown Chicago, rain soaking through my jacket when I realized the worst part wasn't being thrown out. It was the laughter drifting through the doors behind me, the kind of laughter that tells you everyone inside has already decided who you are. Weak, replaceable, not worth defending. Yeah, that was the moment everything cracked. An hour earlier, I was still inside that ballroom pretending I belonged. The lights were warm, the music smooth, the kind of place where deals are sealed with handshakes and expensive smiles. I held a glass of water because it gave my hands something to do. My dress was simple, nothing flashy, something I'd bought years ago because it was practical. In a room full of tailored suits and designer gowns, I might as well have shown up wearing an apology. People like my husband's family noticed those things, especially his mother. She leaned in, close lips, tight voice, sharp enough to cut. "Stand up straight. You're making people uncomfortable." I wanted to ask who exactly, but I already knew the answer. I was the uncomfortable part. I told her I was waiting for my husband, that he'd asked me to be there. She smiled like she'd just heard a joke. "He needs charm tonight, not charity," she said, then walked away like she'd won. Across the room, my husband was holding court. He always knew how to look confident, like the room owed him something. His hand rested on the back of a woman in a sleek black dress, laughing just a little too close to her ear. I didn't know her name then, but I knew the type. Polished, connected. The kind of woman people assumed he should be with. I told myself not to overthink it. I was good at that. Swallowing doubt, smoothing it down, pretending it tasted like trust. I'd spent years doing that. Years proving I wasn't a liability. Cooking dinners, organizing his life, staying quiet when jokes crossed the line. He used to say he loved how grounded I was. Somewhere along the way, grounded turned into boring. Supportive turned into invisible. And that night, invisible turned into disposable. I overheard them by accident. My husband and his business partner tucked near the bar. Voices low, confidence high. They talked about timing, about image, about how the divorce would look better after his next funding round. I waited for him to say something kind, something human. Instead, he laughed, called me harmless, said I'd never leave, said I had nowhere to go. Hearing someone you love reduce you to a strategy is a special kind of cold. I didn't cry. Not then. I just needed air. I turned too fast, bumped into someone important, spilled red wine down a crisp white suit. The room froze. Every head turned. And my husband saw an opportunity. He stepped in like a hero, rescuing the room from me. Apologized to the investor, then turned on me with a fury I'd never seen. Called me unstable. Said I'd been drinking. I hadn't. It didn't matter. He grabbed my arm and dragged me toward the exit. People watched. No one stopped him. The doors opened, rain rushed in, and he shoved me outside like a problem he'd finally solved. "You don't belong here," he said loud enough for the crowd. "Don't come back." The door closed. The music resumed. And I sat there on the pavement, stunned, my shoe. Broken my knee, bleeding, wondering how love had turned into this. The rain was cold. My phone was heavy in my hand. I thought about calling a friend. I realized I didn't have one I trusted enough. That realization hurt more than the fall. Then I remembered a number. One I'd carried for years without using. A last resort given to me by someone who believed I'd never need it. I dialed with shaking fingers. When the voice on the other end said my name, really said it like it mattered, I broke. He didn't ask why. He just said, "Stay where you are." 20 minutes later, a black car pulled up and an older man stepped out like the world still listened when he spoke. He wrapped a coat around my shoulders and said, "You're done being small." I didn't fully understand what he meant, but I believed him. For the first time in a long time, I believed someone. He told me the truth on the drive. About my past. About my family. About how the man who'd thrown me out was negotiating with money that wasn't really his. About how power works when you stop begging for it. By the time the car stopped, my hands had stopped shaking. They gave me a new dress, new shoes, but more importantly, new context. I wasn't returning to prove anything. I was returning to end something. When I walked back into that ballroom, the room shifted. People felt it before they understood it. My husband didn't recognize me at first. He smiled, introduced himself, tried to impress me. Then I said his name. The look on his face was worth every second of pain. Confusion, fear, disbelief. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just told the truth about who I was, about what I owned, about the deal he thought would save him. I took the contract he'd been chasing for months and burned it in front of him. No speech, no drama, just fire and silence. The fallout was immediate. Headlines, interviews, lawsuits. He tried to paint himself as the victim. Said I'd lied. Said I owed him. Desperation makes people loud. Power makes people quiet. Every threat he made unraveled another layer of his life. His partners left. His backers vanished. His leverage disappeared. When we finally sat across from each other in a conference room, he demanded money. $50 million, like he was still negotiating from a position of strength. I slid one paper across the table. His debt, owned by me. Another, his company. In receivership, another, a choice. Walk away with nothing, or face charges he couldn't outrun, he signed. His hand shook. Mine didn't. A year later, I saw him again. Not in a boardroom. On a cold sidewalk opening car doors for strangers. He looked tired. Smaller. He didn't recognize me at first. When he did, he looked like he'd seen a ghost. He whispered my name. I felt nothing. That surprised me the most. My life had moved on. New work, new purpose, real peace. When my partner asked if I knew him, I said no, and I meant it. Some people only exist in your life long enough to teach you what you'll never tolerate again. Here's what I learned. Being underestimated is dangerous, but not for the reason people think. It's dangerous because you start to believe it. You start shrinking yourself to survive, and survival isn't the same as living. If someone treats you like you're replaceable, believe them. Then replace the version of yourself that ever accepted it. So tell me this, do you think he got what he deserved, or did power just shift hands? Have you ever been judged, dismissed, or written off because you didn't fit someone else's idea of worth? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read them, and sometimes they change more than you think.